Hey guys, today we're doing 5.3, so we're adding and subtracting rational expressions. Remember that rational expressions means a fraction, so adding and subtracting fractions. Remember that when we're adding fractions, so let's say I have 2/3 plus 1/2. Well, I need to get a common denominator first. So I'd say, well, 2 and 3 both go into 6. Well, I can multiply the top and bottom of this one by 2 to make that 4/6. Multiply top and bottom of this one by 3 to make that 3/6. Now I can add the fractions. I leave the denominator alone. It stays 6. 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay, so that's how we add or subtract fractions. And we're going to do the same thing when we throw x's in there. We're going to get our denominators the same and then add the numerators. All right. Your classwork is divided up into groups of 4s. So I'm going to do problems 1, 5, 9, and 13. Okay. So let's look at our first one. So I see that my denominator here is a 2. My denominator over here also has a 2 in it. It just has an x as well. So I want to get my denominators to be the same, which means that I can either multiply top and bottom of this one by x to make them both 2x. And that's what I'm going to do. I could cancel out the 2's on the right side, but I don't want to do that because I want that 2 to stay, because that's in my common denominator. So if I do that, that gives me 5x over 2x plus 2y over 2x. Okay, so I multiply top and bottom of the left by x. Now I can add my fractions. My denominator is going to be 2x. My numerator is going to be 5x plus 2y. If I can simplify, I will, but let's see, for this one I have 2, 5, and 2. Is there anything that I can factor out of all three of those? And no, I cannot. And then I look at the x, y. Is there something I can do with all three of those? Again, no, there's not. So my answer is going to stay just like that. Skip ahead to number 5. Too far. There we go. So I see the denominator of the right is factored out, and I'm going to see, is there anything I can cancel out top and bottom already on that right side? I have an n minus 5 on top. I do not have an n minus 5 on the bottom, so no, nothing I can cancel out. Well, I have 3n over here. I have a 2, an n plus 2, an n minus 3. Right now I have nothing in common, and that's okay. But right here, I have a 6 and a 3. Well, I can simplify that and say that 6 divided by 3 is 2 over n. Okay, so I can make that simplification. That gives me a little less I have to multiply by. Now I need to get my denominators to be the same. That means my right side needs an n. So I have an n here, so I need to multiply n on this one. And on the left side I have a lot I need to multiply because it's missing a 2, it's missing an n plus 2, and it's missing an n minus, an n minus 3. So I'm going to multiply all of this by both the bottom and the top. Okay, and so we'll put that over here. So I have on the top 2 times 2, so 4 n plus 3, sorry, n plus 2 n minus 3. And in the bottom, I have 2n, n plus 2, n minus 3, minus, well, on the right side, I have n times n minus 5 all over 2n n plus 2 n minus 3. Okay. Now for these, I am going to leave my denominators factored out. So my denominators are now the same. I am not going to multiply my denominators out. I'm going to leave my denominator just like it looks and combine those into one fraction. I'll make it bigger. So my denominator is now 2n, n plus 2, n minus 3. Okay? I will multiply the individual numerators out. So I'm going to multiply that together and say it's 4 times, well, let's see here, n times n is n squared times negative 3 is negative 3n, 2n, and minus 6. And yes, you could use the box there instead. That's fine. I do need to be very careful whenever I'm subtracting. I'm going to put minus, and that is minus distributed. So here, I'm going to distribute my n, put it in parentheses, n squared minus 5n. I need to put it in parentheses because that minus right there is ultimately going to get distributed to everything. Alright, so I'm going to come down here, try to give myself a little bit more space so I don't run out. I need to distribute my 4, giving me 4n squared minus 4 times 3 is 12n plus 8n, which I could have just combined those two terms earlier. 4 times 6 is negative 24 minus n squared plus 5n. Are there any like terms I can combine? Well, those two terms combine to make 3n squared. This, and this combine. So 5 plus 8 is 13, minus 12 is plus 1n, and then I have minus 24 all over 2n, n plus 2, n minus 3. So I said I'm leaving the denominators factored out. For the top, I want to see, can I factor it? If I factor it, will it cancel something out? Because if I can't factor it, well, I have to leave it like that. If I can factor it, but nothing's going to cancel out, I'm still going to leave it just like that. So over here, somewhere I have some space. I don't have a lot left. Let's see if that's big enough. 3n squared negative 24. So let's think here. What are our factors of 24? Well, we have 2 and 12. We have 3 and 8. And 4 and 6. And this is 3n, so we're going to have 3. So one of those is going to multiply by 3, and when hit by the other one has to make 1. So one's positive, one's negative. We got to add them together and make 1. Well, let's see here. Is there anything that I left out? Any factors left out? I don't think so. If I do 3 times 2, I get 6. That and 12 isn't going to work. If I do 3 times 4, I get 12. 3 times 6, I get 18, so that's not going to work. But notice, if I do 3 times 3, that gives me 9. Put the 8 up here, that gives me 8n. And if I make one of those negative, that cancels out and gives me a 1n. Well, I want the 8 to be negative. Okay, so I'll end up with I could factor that into 3n minus 8 and n plus 3, and that would work. But does it cancel anything out? Well, I don't have a 3n minus 8. I have an n minus 3, but I don't have an n plus 3. So because I don't have an n plus 3, I'm not going to actually factor the top. I'm just going to leave it like that. Now that said, maybe you factored it out and you're like, well, I did all that work to factor it out. I really want to leave my answer like that. That's fine. If you wrote your answer like this, and you just left your answer like that, that's perfectly fine as well. Alright. And again, you do need to factor it because sometimes we're going to cancel stuff out and be able to simplify it. Sometimes we're not. Alright, that was number 5. We're going to move on to number 9. Okay, so let's see, what are we missing out of each one? Well, on the left side, we need an x minus 1. On the right side, we need a 2 and then x plus 1. Okay. Well, if I multiply those together, the top of the left becomes 5x minus 5 plus 2 times 6 is 12, so those two make 12, and if I distribute my 12, 12x plus 12. So I end up with 2x plus 1, x minus 1. Alright, well, how do I simplify from here? Well, we have a common denominator, so I can combine into one fraction. So my denominator is 2x plus 1, x minus 1. Combine the tops, 5 and 12 make 17x. Negative 5 plus 12 was negative 5 plus 12 plus 7. Can I factor anything out of the top? Well, no. 17 and 7 are both prime numbers, so I can't factor anything out of the top. So I'm just going to leave it just like that. That was number 9. And lastly, number 13. Okay, well, what do I need here? Well, the left side needs a 5x minus 2. The right side needs an x minus 5. Alright, so if I distribute here, 6 times 5 is 30x minus 12x, sorry, 30x squared, because I have a 6x times 5x, 30x squared, over, and I'm going to leave this factored, 5x minus 2, x minus 5, minus, distribute my 3x times x is 3x squared, 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. I have a common denominator, so I can combine into one fraction. Now, I need to be careful that that negative gets distributed to both of these when I combine. So what I'm going to do is just list my terms out across the top. 30x squared minus 12x, and I'm going to distribute that negative. So negative 3x squared plus 15x. Equals, now I'll combine like terms, 30 minus 3 is 27x squared. Negative 12 plus 15, that gives me 3x all over can I simplify that? Let's see, I can factor a 3 out of the top, making it and an x, making it 3. That would be 9x plus 1. Nothing cancels out, so I'm okay to leave my answer like that, or I can write my answer like that. I'm good either way. And that's one of each of the 4 types. So good luck on the rest of those, and I'll see you on our next lesson.